So it's another beautiful day. Yesterday it was in the 60s. Today's it's in the 60s. I don't think it's quite as windy today. I didn't have to come out here with a coat on. It's a beautiful day. But today, starting this evening, afternoon, whatever, it's supposed to rain, and they're talking about flooding conditions. Of course, we're on the hill, so we don't have to worry about it, but I do have to worry about the well. The last time we had flooding conditions, I've told you this several times, the well did get dirty, even though I've done everything I can to keep water from getting into the well. When it floods like that, rains that hard, it'll get dirty. So that's okay. It's an old well. I've resigned myself to the fact that it's an old well, and occasionally we're going to have hard enough rains that I'm just going to have to flush it out. So what happens is it'll rain, it'll flood. I give it the rest of that day, then I give it 2 more days. So not tomorrow, but the next day. Let's say it rains right now, it stops today. Tomorrow I won't do anything with it because all that water still got to drain down into it, and then the very next day then I can flush it out. So I'm going to fill the tank up today because after the rain it's supposed to start snowing and get cold again. That way I've got plenty of water in there, not only to deal with the flooding conditions, but to keep the tank warm enough where it won't freeze if it gets that cold. I don't think it's even going to get that cold, 19 degrees, so it's not that bad. But I need to fill it anyways, so I'm going to do it before the rain. This morning it was warm enough. Normally when I get up at 5 o'clock, I come down and I open the door to the chicken coop, and then a couple hours later I go down there and give them some water. Well, this morning I go down there and I give them some water because it was warm enough. I thought, well, I'll just make one trip. I took the water down there, but I didn't open up the chicken coop, so they were stuck in there until 8:30. I felt terrible for them. So anyway, I'm going to get this hose out, but I want to have a conversation with you while I'm working on filling up the water. People talk about freedoms a lot, and I just watched a video about freedom and how these people thought their freedoms were being restricted. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I thought, no, you're infringing on someone else's freedoms. Everybody has freedoms, and a lot of people will say, your freedom's in the tip of my nose. Okay, but the reverse is true too. Your freedom ends at the tip of their nose. My freedom ends at the tip of their nose. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused. You can't infringe on my rights, but I can infringe on yours. You know, when the mask mandates happened, Walmart put in a requirement that you had to have a mask. They did it almost immediately. And of course, there was a lot of people that didn't like that. They were harassing the employees. And I thought, you know, that's ridiculous. Why are you harassing the employees? That's not their fault. And the employees had to go through training on how to deal with the situation. And the Walmart ended up having to call cops because nobody wanted to wear their mask. And finally the cops said, no, we're not going to come out every time somebody doesn't want to wear a mask. So Walmart ended up loosening the restrictions on mask mandates. Well, here's the thing. Now, I know everybody's going to say, Walmart's a public company because it's stock traded. They're a public company. No, they're still a private company. They publicly trade stocks, which means, what that means is they have public investors. That doesn't mean you're part of the public. They're still a private organization. They just have public investors. You can have private investors too. So Walmart, being a private organization, still has rights. They can restrict who comes into their store and who doesn't come into their store. I firmly believe that. It's no different than my home. I can restrict who comes in my home, who doesn't come in my home. So I found it frustrating. Not that I'm a big mask advocate, but that's up to each individual. And Walmart decided that they, at the time when the pandemic was really roaring, that masks were important. They have that right. It's their company. They can do that. But some people just absolutely thought that that is ridiculous. You're infringing on my rights. I don't want to wear a mask. You're infringing on my rights. Again, their rights ended at Walmart's nose. When they walked in that building, Walmart now has every right to say whatever they want about their store. I remember back in the early 2000s, I was trying to get my conceal and carry permit. And so I was doing a lot of studying and understanding gun laws and just all kinds of things. And I found that Alaska had the most interesting gun law. Well, when you conceal and carry, they can open carry, I think, up there. They said that you pretty much just carry wherever you want, whatever you want, whenever you want, unless you go to someone's house. And then you have to announce that you have a firearm. And I found that very interesting, that Alaska recognizes that a homeowner may not want you in their home with a firearm, even though you have the right to carry a firearm. Your right of carrying a firearm ended at the homeowner's nose. See, this is where people forget. They forget that I have rights and they have rights. It's always the greedy, I have rights. I don't care about everybody else's rights. And that's why this country is such a mess it is in. I mean, my neighbor, I used to have a neighbor, and he would always infringe on my rights and then talk about his rights. It was just so aggravating. I have a right to have a dog and it can run around and all this stuff. And he would let his dog run around. But as soon as you did anything, he was calling the police. One night I was in my own backyard. I had a telescope. It was I don't remember what year it was, 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. Mars had made its closest approach to Earth in like 10,000 years. So I had this 10-inch telescope and a TV monitor. It was an old black and white TV. I had this adapter that allowed my telescope to transmit to the TV. So I had the TV out there in the middle of the night, and he called the cops. I mean, it was obvious what I was doing. I wasn't trying to hide anything. He just didn't want me doing what I enjoyed. And he said it was bothering him and he didn't know what was going on. And it was just, he wanted his rights maintained, but not yours. I think this is partially the reason I try to be self-sufficient as much as possible. I realize it's not totally possible for me to be self-sufficient. I always try to work towards that goal. And hopefully one of these days, maybe I can, but there's just so much to do in order to be self-sufficient, raising your own crops. And there are times I'm going to have to go to the grocery store or to the grain mill or the feed mill, and I have to do what they want me to do when I'm there because it's their store. I have to. So staying here as much as possible is what makes me happy, because I get to enlist my own freedoms. Look, I have a no trespassing sign, and I now have a dog that is coming on my property. I think they are there part-time. I think it's a vacation home for them. They come for a week, they leave for a week. He's not there now, hasn't been there for several days. Well, the other day, the dog got loose in the middle of the night. I'm on the porch cutting firewood for smaller pieces. And he says, "Do you have a dog?" He's out on the road. He says, "Do you have a dog?" I said, "No, I don't know." And the thing is, I don't know who he is. I didn't figure that out until after a little bit later. Well, I hear dog barking and the dog's on my property. Well, now I'm starting to connect the dots. Oh, it's his dog barking. He's wanting to get a dog. He's trying to figure out if I have a dog, trying to figure out if that's his dog. He doesn't ask or anything. He just walks onto the property and I said, "Hey, you can't be on the property." Oh, he says, "I just get my dog." And then he gets his dog and he continues on down his property off on my property. No. This is my property. Your rights ended at my nose. He likes shooting his guns at night. Drives me crazy. But as far as rights, I think he has every right to do it. He's on his property doing his thing. Yeah, the noise bothers me, but I can put earplugs in. But I also think he's a night person. He sleeps most of the day and gets up at night. So he could argue that the chicken's making noise during the day, me running the generator or the lawnmower, that's keeping him awake. So it all gets real sticky when you start violating other people's rights and people get angry. So I stay here on the property and try to enjoy my rights. I don't need to go to other places to be happy. I don't have a problem wearing a mask. If somebody asks me to wear a mask, I will, fine. You go into a store and they say no shoes, no shirts, no service. Okay. So if I go in there with no shoes on, I know they're going to kick me out. Do I have a right to go into their business without shoes? I think we all can universally agree that no, you can't go in there without shoes on. So if you don't want to wear shoes, stay on your property and don't wear shoes. But in their store, they want you to wear shoes. And I don't understand why this is such a problem. So there again, mask. If they want you to wear a mask in their store, fine. Makes sense to me. Another one that it seems to always aggravate people is the freedom of speech one. The freedom of speech says, Congress shall make no law to abridge freedom of speech. But that doesn't say anything about me abridging your ability to speak freely. So let's talk like YouTube for a minute. YouTube comment section and me being able to speak on YouTube. I can speak on YouTube all I want. You are not required to listen to what I have to say. There's nothing forcing you to say it. So it'd be like me sitting here on my property talking to myself. I have every right to say whatever I want on my property. I have every right to say whatever I want on YouTube, because my YouTube channel is my property. YouTube rents it to me basically for about a 30% fee. They rent me a space, so that space is now mine. They say, you know, you can do whatever you want with your comment section. So I make videos, I bring in an audience, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to listen to me or not. If you don't want to listen, you go away. No harm, no foul. I'm still speaking, just like I'm on my property, speaking, nobody's listening. If I go onto a public street that is funded by my tax dollars, then I can say whatever I want, because the First Amendment does say I can protest on public property. But as soon as somebody comes on my property and protests, now you're trespassing, you're violating my rights. So when I block comments on my YouTube comment section, some of the people get quite irate. Now, so these trolls come into my channel and say, I have the right to say whatever I want on your channel, just like you have a right to say whatever you want on your channels. I don't want to listen to your garbage. I have to read it. You put it out there. I have to read it, either to approve it or disapprove it, or I can just say, no, I don't feel like I'm an idiot on my property. You're coming onto my property, my YouTube channel, and telling me I'm an idiot, and I'm telling you you're not welcomed here anymore. So it's not freedom of speech. If you want to be free, do what Carolyn and I have done. Grab your own piece of property and be as free as you want. So if you'll check out this up next box right here, I appreciate it. That takes you to my other channel. A little bit of humor. I hope I can inspire you to be free so you can live your dream. Thanks for watching.